Hello students, welcome back. In this video, we're going to dive right into our infinite runner game, Polarity. We'll focus on two main things, the gameplay world and our player. We'll ask ourselves, what do we want a user who's playing Polarity to feel as they go through playing the game? And we'll try to have our world create the aesthetic that conveys those feelings. We're also going to have our world infinitely scroll. So our world will be moving, giving the appearance that our player is running, even though our player is going to be completely stationary at this point. So let's head to the computer screen and we'll dive right into Polarity. So I have a web browser open here, and I'm going to go to vscode.dev. I'm going to use an online IDE. Feel free to use this. No software downloads needed. Of course, if you have your own IDE downloaded, you can absolutely use that. So right here, I'm going to click Open Folder, and we are going to go to our desktop where our Polarity folder lives, and we are going to open this folder directly here. We'll allow it, and we'll trust the author. The author's me. You can trust me. Now I have 8 nice lessons here for our game Polarity that we are going to work through one lesson at a time. And if we open up one of the folders, in each folder you have 2 files, lesson 1 final and lesson 1 starter. So you have the final code for this lesson. So this is the completed working version of this lesson. And I want to give you that code because you now have it to reference. You can look at it. You can go back here. So if you have something that's not working, if one of your lines is giving you a problem, just come back to the final version. You can see that line in its correct form. You can copy it, you can paste it in. But I also urge you to follow along in the starter file and write every line of code that we are going to write together, because that's where the real learning takes place. This starter file is a broken version of the game, and we are going to fix it together here in this video. So why don't we go look at what this broken version of Polarity looks like. So I'm going to minimize my web browser, and I'm going to go to my Polarity folder directly, and I'm going to go to lesson 1, which is where we're working, and we're going to open lesson 1.starter. And so when I double click this, it's going to open it right in my browser tab. And here is Polarity. All right, it's terrible, right? I mean, it looks bad. Literally nothing is happening. I'm hitting every key on my keyboard. There's no action, no movement. This looks more like a picture than a video game. And I think you're here to create video games, not to create very, very ugly pictures. So we've got some work to do. And that work that we need to do is in our lesson 1 starter file. So before we get into going through and making our game much, 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 much better, I want to give an overview of what's in this file. To start, we have an HTML file. So HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It is the language of the internet. All of the content that you see out there on the internet comes in the form of HTML. Now, we don't need to know about HTML too much, but just know that it consists of these things called tags. So here is a head tag. Here is a title tag. And the nice thing about tags, the vast majority of them, you open the tag. So here I open a title tag, and then here I close the title tag, indicated by that little slash right there. So you open a tag and you close a tag. And then in between the opening and closing tags, you put content. So right here is some content for the title tag. It says Polarity. Now, if you change the content, things on your web page will change. So if we look here right now, it just kind of looks, okay, there's my page. And if you notice, up here in the tab, the title of this tab is Polarity. So I'm going to change that really quick. Let's edit the HTML content. I'll just say, yeah, and we'll do that. And then I'll just say the art of doing CS. So if I refresh the page, that content changes. So just a nice little example of how HTML tags can hold content, and we can edit that content. But we don't want the title of our tag to say, they are doing CS. We want to have it say Polarity, the name of our game. Hey, let's look at this tag right here. It's called a script tag. This is where JavaScript is going to live. And JavaScript is the programming language that we are going to use for our web-based games. So if you look here, I open the tag, and then over here is the closing tag. So this is the opening tag, here's the closing tag, and in between them there is no content, there's no code. So what is the point of this script tag? Well, if you look in the opening script tag, we are bringing in an external library of JavaScript code. All right, and the source of that library is this URL. And so we are going to bring in or import a JavaScript library called the P5 library. The P5 library is going to be really helpful for us because it helps us render graphics in the web browser. So rendering graphics or drawing graphics. And if we look here, there's a lot of things that we are rendering in this really terrible version of our game. We're rendering this background, we're rendering these weird looking lines, we're rendering what I'm assuming is going to be our player, we're rendering some text up here in this HUD or heads up display. So all of that is facilitated or we're able to render it through this P5 library that we're bringing in. It's just going to make our lives much easier. It's going to bring in some functions that are going to help us. All right, so let's look at what else we got. We've got like a style tag. So here we open it, here we close it, and we got some information in there. And then, oh, look here, we've got another script tag. So this is where our JavaScript is going to live. And so that's where we open the script tag. Where do we close it? Well, if I go all the way, keep going. Ooh, right here. Right down here is where I close that JavaScript tag. So in between those two tags is where our JavaScript code is going to live. Our code for our game. So let's go look at what is in this JavaScript tag. So right up here at the top, I've got, all right, the name of the game in our lesson, Polarity, lesson 1, the world and player. And then it looks like I got this mission checklist. So every single lesson that we do is going to have 8 missions in it. 8 small little parts of our code that we have to fix to improve our game. To go from this terrible game state, in case you forgot, this is the terrible game state, and bring it to something that is much better. And we're going to solve these one at a time together. Now, it's going to force us to go down into our code. And if we look, the first thing that we see is something called a student edit zone. This is safe to modify. The student edit zone is where I put a bunch of variables where you can change the value freely without any worry of breaking your code. What the changes will do will change how your game looks, feels, or plays. So think of these like knobs that you can tune to adjust your gameplay. And so we've got a ton of stuff in here. All right, so a lot of variables. It looks like we've got some missions in here that we're going to have to solve together. But be aware, there is an end of the student edit zone. So once you go outside the student edit zone, any changes you make could potentially cause harm to your game. It could potentially break your game. But we're going to have to work out of the student edit zone quite a bit. But we'll add every line of code together. We'll make every change together. And if you add something incorrectly or you break something, all you got to do is come over here to the final version and look at the correct lines of code to fix your work. All right, so let's see what is outside of the student edit zone. Well, we've got some gameplay variables. Okay, so we're defining some variables. And then we've got, okay, some functions. So what are our functions? Well, it looks like we've got a setup function and a draw function. And there's a nice comment here. It says these are P5 game loop functions. So these are functions that are created for us or called for us by that P5 library that we imported in our first JavaScript tag. And these are key functions. These things, we want to understand how they work. Our setup function gets called once at the beginning of every game. So as soon as I refresh my web page here, setup got called. As soon as I refresh my page, setup got called. And what are we doing in here? Well, we're creating a canvas. We're specifying what we want the width and height to be. It looks like they have values of 900 and 500. So we're making a 900 by 500 pixel canvas. We're setting our text font, and then it looks like we're calling another function, reset game to defaults. All right, so those 3 lines of code get called every single time we refresh our page. That's the purpose of the setup function. The draw function, on the other hand, is another P5 game loop function, but this function gets called every single frame of our game. So imagine if our game is running at 60 frames per second, then that means the draw function is getting called 60 times in one singular second. And what are we doing in there? Well, we're calling update world and we're calling draw scene. So that's the power of functions. If you're unfamiliar with functions, you can just put multiple lines of code inside of a function, and instead of writing out those lines of code over and over and over and over again, you can simply call the function over and over. So you don't have to write those multiple lines. Now, these are given to us. They are called automatically by the P5 library. Let's go look at some other functions that we have here in our code that are not part of the P5 library, that are our own personal functions. So we got a function called reset game to defaults. All right. A function called update world. We've got a function called draw scene. And inside of this function, we're calling a function draw background, draw player, and draw HUD. So there's draw background. Here is the draw player function. And here is the draw HUD function. So at this point, let's lay a foundation for sort of our game development process. It's going to have 3 levels to it. The first level, and I'm going to jump up in my code here, and there's a nice little scroll bar over here. You can just click around to move quickly through your code. So the first level is probably right here in the student edit zone. We're going to define our data. So right here, we're defining a bunch of data for our game by creating variables. And even down here, we're defining our data for our gameplay variables. So level 1, define your data. Level 2, if we look here, we like got to update our world, and we're resetting our game to default value. So it looks like we're updating or changing our data. So level 2, we have to update data. And then finally, level 3, we got to draw that data. We got to be able to see the changes that we made in our game when we update it. So our 3 levels of game development, we are going to define our data, we are going to update our data, and then we are going to draw our data. All right, with that overview of this file and that foundation of video game development in place, let's head to our mission checklist. Let's look at mission number 1. Mission number 1 says we need to change the background color of the tunnel. Really? You don't like this, like, nice purple pink color? Well, maybe you do, and if you do, you can keep it, but we are going to change it because it's not the mood that I want to convey to my user who's playing the game. So now where do we go in order to do this? Well, this mission 1 that I have highlighted here is what I'll call a tag. It only appears twice in this program. It appears once here in the mission checklist, and then it appears another time where we need to target our lines of code. So if you hit Control F on your keyboard or Command F, so Control F, Command F, it'll bring up this nice little search bar to find a specific phrase. And we are going to type in that tag, mission 1. And so if I type it in, it says we are currently looking at one of 2 mission 1 tags right here. And all you got to do is just hit the arrows. You can hit the up arrow to go previous match and down arrow to go to the next match. So if I hit the down arrow, it brings me to mission number 1 right in my code. And so mission number 1 here right in my code is called the background color mission. We want to change the background color of the tunnel and observe how it changes the mood of the world. I always like to look and see where are these missions in our code. So right now, this looks like we're defining some data. And if I scroll up, we are in the student edit zone, this safe place to modify all of our data. See, changing the background color should not break our game. That should be something we are free to change, and you absolutely are. We just have to understand what this line of code is actually saying. And so we're going to break this down into 4 parts, and we're going to go in depth here because our understanding of this is going to be crucial for everything that we do moving forward. So first, when you create a variable, and I've got a variable right here, you name it. My variable's name is BG color. That's a pretty good variable name for the background color of our game. In JavaScript, you have to declare it. And we are declaring this variable as a const. Const means constant. If something is constant, it is not going to change. And when you create a constant variable, you are saying over the lifetime of that variable, once we set its value, that value will not change. So over the lifetime of this variable's existence, background color, when I create the game, I'm not going to change the background color of the game. Once it's set, it is set. So I can create it as a const. When you create constant variables, you typically make them all capital letters to indicate that it is constant. Now we have to assign this variable a value. The way you do that is with a single equal sign. So we're going to assign it a value. And the value that we are assigning it is this string. Anything inside of quotations is known as a specific data type called a string. And this is a special string. This is known as a hex string. So this is a hexadecimal string. And what does that mean? Well, it's a way to define color. There are lots of ways we can define color, and we're going to see lots of them in our videos here for polarity. But when I want just basic colors, I typically use hex strings, indicated by the hashtag here. So that hashtag right here in the front tells me that this is a hexadecimal string. Ooh, that was a big word. Hexadecimal. What exactly does that mean? Well, hexadecimal is just a number system. It is a way to count. And you are all familiar with one type of number system, a way to count, called the decimal number system. If you think about it, we can start counting. Our first number, we'll say, is 0. And then I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then these represent the digits that we have to work with when counting in the decimal number system, right? So where do I go after 9? Well, I ran out of digits, so I start over. But instead of starting at 0, I move to the next digit. So I'm going to type 1 and then start over. So 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 1, 5, 1, 6, 1, 7. Hexadecimal is no different, except in hexadecimal, you don't just have the characters 0 through 9, you actually have 16 characters to work with. You have 0 through 9, so if we were counting in hexadecimal, we'd say, okay, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then you have the letters A through F. So we would then go to A because we still have characters. We'd go to B. We still have characters. C, D, E, and F. We still have those characters. And now once I get to 16, now I've run out of characters. So what in the world do I do? Well, just like here, we go back to the beginning. Instead of starting at 0, we start at 1 and we add our beginning character. So 1, 0, 1, 1. So in hexadecimal, the number 16 is represented as 1, 0. The number 17 is represented as 1, 1. The number 10 is represented as A. And if we kept this going, we could go all the way out to 255. And what is 255 in hexadecimal? It is the hexadecimal number F. And that's going to be really important for us because this hexadecimal string, which represents color, really represents 3 colors mixed together. You have 2 hexadecimal digits for red. So you have red, and red is currently 9A. You have 2 hexadecimal digits for green. So green is currently 2. And you have 2 hexadecimal digits here for blue. So blue is currently A8. All right, and so we can pick how much red, how much green, and how much blue we want in our background color if we express them in hexadecimal. And the ranges here, the smallest amount, give me none of the red, would be 0, 0. And the maximum amount of a color, give me all of the red, would be FF. All right, so 0, 0 to FF. Essentially our decimal numbers of 0 to 255. All right, thanks for listening to me talk about color. Now that we know a little bit, let's implement it. So I'm going to get rid of all of those lines. Those are there just to teach you. They'll crash our program, and we don't want to crash it. And let's now change the color of our background. Let's get rid of those numbers, and let's just do a red background. So I'm going to say give me all of the red, none of the green, and none of the blue. So FF0000. Right now, I should see a nice red background. Woo! There it is. It works. I don't like it. It doesn't look good, but let's just mess around with color a little bit more. What if I get some red and all of the green? So now I want all the red, all the green, none of the blue. What are we going to get? Red and green here make yellow, but that yellow is too bright. So let's dull the yellow. So let's do, let's do a lower amount of red, 9, 9, and a lower amount of green, 9, 9. And we'll still keep blue 0. Hey, that's a darker yellow. So as we lower these values, the brightness will change. What if I did all of the red, all of the green, and all of the blue? What's that going to give me? Ooh, that gives me white. So when we have all of the colors present, we get white. What if I do none of the colors? No red, no green, no blue, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Well, that is black. And that black is sort of where I want to go. I think I want a darker background. Let's just put a little bit of color in. So I'm going to do like 0.7 in the red channel, so just a little bit of red. Let's do 0.9 in the green channel, so just a little bit of green. And in the blue channel, let's do 0F, just a little bit of blue. So a little bit of red, a little bit of green, a little bit of blue. And that gives me like a little bit of a lighter color, which is good because now it stands out against the HUD. So that's like a little bit of a lighter black. Hey, I like that background color. I think this is a perfect mission number 1. We are done. So now that means we get to go to mission number 2. So all I got to do here is go into my find bar and type mission number 2. If yours closed, just hit Control F to open it back up and type mission number 2. And if we look here, we're already in mission 2. If we could go back up to the mission checklist, it says we have to define where the floor lane begins. Okay, what does that mean? Okay, so this puts us in this function called reset game to defaults. We saw that we're going to call this function in our setup. So remember, setup is a function that's called by P5, that library we brought in. So every time I refresh my game, that function calls, we create a canvas, we set our text font, and then we're calling reset game to defaults. So let's see what's happening here. We're setting ceiling line Y. We're setting a variable equal to HUD height. Did we define that here in our gameplay variables? Oh yeah, we did. If you look here, we have let ceiling line Y equal 0. Note here, we're declaring a variable not with const, but with let. And that is because we are going to change the value of this variable. So if you want to make a variable when you're going to change its value, you use let to declare it. And note the words are not all capitals here. So this indicates that it's just a regular old variable. So it looks like we've got a ceiling line Y variable for our gameplay, our floor line Y variable, a world scroll X. So I'm thinking ceiling line and floor line are probably going to be like, my player is eventually going to move back and forth, through the floor and the ceiling. So that might be like these lines where we're going to draw the ceiling and the floor. Our world scroll X is equal to 0. Okay, so remember we said our world has got to scroll horizontally. That's probably going to work there. We have an active polarity color, which is neon color down. Okay, so neon color down is somewhere, oh yeah, it's here in my student edit zone. So we've got two colors, neon color down and neon color up, it looks like that we'll use. So it looks like this is a lot of blue and a lot of green. I bet that's like a cyan color, all right? And this is a lot of red and a lot of blue, so that's probably gonna be like a purple. So like neon cyan and neon purple are gonna be our color palettes here. And then we have a player variable, and the player variable is inside of curly brackets. This makes it an object, and objects have properties. Our player variable, our player object, has 3 properties. It has an X property, so that's going to be like its horizontal position. It has an attach point property, so I think that's probably going to be like its vertical position. So where is it in the vertical direction? Right now it's attached to like the ceiling, but maybe we want to attach it to the floor at some point. And then it has a VY property, or a vertical velocity, because our player is not actually going to move horizontally at all. It's only going to move up and down as it flips polarity, right? As it flips from the ceiling to the floor. All right, so with that, let's go back down here to reset game to defaults now that we know a little bit about these variables. And we're setting ceiling line Y equal to our HUD height. So our HUD height, if we look here, this is a constant because it's all capitals, and it was set to a value of 60. So there's our HUD height, 60 pixels down from the top of the screen. Okay, so that looks pretty good. So now we want to define where the floor lane begins. So we have floor line Y here, and it says use the HUD space to place the lower boundary correctly. All right, so right now floor line is equal to 100. I don't know. I think we got to change that. I don't know. What if I change it to like 500? What's it going to do? Let's see. Whoa. Okay. That did something. What if I change it to 200? Oh, okay. So like, look, there's my floor. So I have a ceiling line and a floor line. And our ceiling line is right here, like 60 pixels down from the top, which was our HUD height. And our floor line is 200 pixels down from the top. So this is sort of making sense. Well, I'd like the floor line to be sort of at the floor. So could we do like 400? I don't know. Could we do 300? Let's try 300. All right, so it's growing farther and farther, but how do I get it to exactly where I want it to be, like all the way down here? Well, our canvas, which is where we're drawing our game, has two special properties, a width and a height. I can just reference the height of the canvas. So let's just do height, all right? And that's that variable that holds the height of the canvas. Hey, that's sort of right. It looks like the floor line is all the way down here. But if you notice, we've got these dark bars on the top and the bottom. Those are HUDs, heads up display. We're going to be putting text in those. And we know that there's a variable that holds their height. So it's called HUD height. So we went all the way down to the height of the canvas, but now I have to go back up the HUD height. So I got to subtract off my variable HUD height. And when you subtract values, you move up in the y direction. So if we set it there, ooh, look at that. That looks perfect. So now I have a nice ceiling line and a nice floor line. Very, very good. Mission number 2 is done. Excellent. This is perfect. And if we look, this is neat. So we have player.x. We're changing the player's starting x position to be 140. And then look at this. We say their attach point should be that floor line. Look, if we change the player's attach point from floor line to ceiling line y, let's see where they attach. So right now they're attached to the floor. If I refresh the page, whoa, they're sort of attached up on the ceiling. We can only see like a little bit of them because that system is not correct yet, but we'll get there. So let's put it back to floor line y, and we'll move on to mission number 3. Mission number 3 is all about drawing our world. So right now it says draw the tunnel grid lines with the loop. Use the scrolling pattern to repeat lines across the screen. All right, so let's see. First thing, let's figure out where we are here and where this function is getting called. So I'm in a function called draw background. Okay, so look, draw background is getting called inside of this draw scene function. So when we want to draw our scene, we're drawing our background, our player, and our HUD. And draw scene is getting called every single frame of our game. Because if I come up here to our P5 library functions, setup, which runs once at the start of our game, and then draw, which runs every single frame of our game, we're doing two things in that. We're updating our world and we're calling draw scene. So when we run draw scene, every frame of our game, we draw our background, our player, and our HUD. Like, look, if I just comment out draw player, my player is going to disappear. Boop, no player, no player. My player is gone. I bring my player back in. Bloop, he's back. So we just got to make sure we are drawing things correctly. Right now, we are not really drawing our background correctly. So let's look at what we're doing here. The first thing we're doing is we're setting the color of our background with the background function. And we're passing in BG color. That's the color we defined in mission number 1. And then we're setting the weight of our marker. Imagine we have a marker that we can use to draw with. And we're saying, hey, let's make sure that our marker has a weight of 1. That's the default weight, but we might have changed it. So we're going to make sure we set it to a default height of 1 or weight of 1. And then we're setting the stroke or the color of the marker that we want to draw with. So I want to draw with my active polarity color. That was a variable that we set in our gameplay variable section. I think it was either going to be like that neon cyan or that neon purple. All right, and so then we get this weird variable called start x, which is equal to negative world scroll x mod %sign grid spacing. This is a complicated line right now that doesn't really fit with what we're doing for our mission, but we should explain it. Essentially, we are going to start drawing lines here at 0, at x position 0, which is our left side of the screen, and we're going to space them out. And right now you can see we're not finishing that. So we definitely want to finish spacing them out. And then eventually those lines are going to start to move to the left. So we want to move the line to the left, to the left, to the left, to the left, to the left. But eventually we don't want to just keep going to the left. Eventually that line that is moving to the left needs to go back to its starting position. And this is what helps us go back to that starting position. Okay. And we'll talk more about what this %sign is. It's called the modulo operator at some point in our videos for that. But for right now, let's look at mission number 3, our world drawing. We are going to draw the tunnel and grid lines within the loop. All right, so we are going to use something called a for loop. Our for loop allows us to repeat lines of code over and over and over again. And the one line that we are repeating over and over again is drawing a line. See, we use the line function right here. Now, our line function seems to take in 4 pieces of information. It looks like it takes in the x coordinate of the starting point, the y coordinate of the starting point, the x coordinate of the ending point, and the y coordinate of the ending point. And so if we look here in our for loop, we're declaring a variable. We're saying let x equal start x. We're going to assume that start x is 0 right now. That's where we're starting right here. And then we're going to say until x is less than 500, keep looping. And each time we loop, we're going to increase x by a variable called grid spacing, so which is 120. All right, and then we're drawing a line. We're starting at whatever x's value is. We're starting at our ceiling line, and then our ending point is whatever x's value is, and our ending point's y is the floor line. So we're starting here, we're going to here. We're drawing a line. Then we're switching. We're starting here, we're going to here. We're going to here and here. So we're drawing these lines over and over again. So why is this not going all the way to the end of our canvas? Well, if you look here, we are saying, hey, let's keep doing this as long as x is less than 500. That's a big problem. Let's get out the calculator. X starts at 0. All right, so then this draws one line, and then we increase it by our grid spacing, which is 120. And now it's 120. That's less than 500. Then we increase it by 120. All right, we can draw another line. We increase it by 120. We draw that line. We increase it by 120. We draw that line. Oh, except I'm a goofball. 360 plus 120. And then we increase it by 120 again, and see now 600 is not less than 500. So this is a false condition. So that means the loop stops. We stop drawing our lines. See, this is our problem. We don't want to go to 500. Let's go to 601. I bet we get a new line. Let's see if we get a new line at 601. Hey, we get a new line. That's awesome. But we want more lines. We want to go all the way to the edge of our canvas. To get the edge of that canvas, we are going to use the canvas's width. So now when we plug that in, we should have all of our grid lines present. Ooh, this looks perfect. Now it's not ideal because if you look, this one's a little bit smaller, but eventually these lines are going to start moving and it's going to look really, really good. Mission number 3 and an introduction to for loops done. Let's go to mission number 4. It's all about the player's visual identity. So we are going to position the player's eye on the little rider that we have, and we got to adjust the eye's position, the placement, to fit the player of the body. So if we look here, our player's got a little eyeball, and that's kind of cute, but that's a weird place for an eye. I think we want to have the eye be like over here somewhere, as if it's looking outwards. So right here, this puts us inside of our draw player function. We know we're calling the draw player function inside of draw scene, and we're doing some really great things here. We're like maybe drawing the player's body, it looks like, using something called a rect or a rectangle, but now we want to draw the eye. All right, so to draw the eye, it looks like we are declaring 2 constants, ix and iy. And then we're using those to draw circles. So right here we have a neat little function called fill. Think of fill like we are going to load paint into a paint bucket, and then we're going to use it to fill in or paint a shape that we're about to make. So I put in the player's eye color, and then I draw a circle, and I'm going to paint the inside of that circle with that color. Our circle function needs 3 pieces of information. It needs the x coordinate of the center, the y coordinate of the center, and then the diameter of the circle. So watch this. If I make this like way bigger, 120, watch what happens to the eye. Whoa, that eye is huge. We don't want that. So we're going to make that 12. And then we put a new color in our paint bucket, the player's neon color, and then it looks like we change the x coordinate of our center, keep the y coordinate the same, and we have a much smaller circle. That's sort of like the pupil of the eye. You can see it right there. So really what we need to do is, I don't want this eyeball up here. I kind of want it over here. So we got to shift the ix and iy right now. So right now, ix is using the player's x position. The player's x position is going to be defined as the left side of the player. So what I want to do is I want to add some values to that. So I don't know, let's add, I have no idea. Let's just add like 25 to shift it to the right. And the player's y value, player y Player Y is right here. It's related to their attach point. So remember we saw that they're going to either attach to the ceiling or the floor. Let's just add something to that too. Let's add like 10 to that. So let's just see what this looks like. Oh, that's actually sort of close. That's not too bad, but there's only just one problem. If we change the size of our player, we're going to have to come down here and adjust these as well. So what I want to do is I want to add something based on the player's size. Now, if you just look, if I start typing in play, all capital letters, I get this list of all of these great variables that are available to me. And I have a constant here called player size. If I go to it with my arrow keys and then I hit tab, it will auto-complete it. And I can hover over it and see that the player's size is currently a constant variable that is set to 40. I'm going to take that and I'm just going to multiply, because adding 40 is going to be way too much. But let's just see. I'm going to do the same thing down here in the Y direction. We'll add player size. So now it puts it, instead of being in the top left corner, it's in the bottom right corner. So we don't want to add that much. So if we want to reduce how much we add, we can take that value and multiply by a decimal. So I'm going to multiply the X value by 0.65, and I'm going to multiply the Y value by 0.4. And that should position my eye exactly where I want it. Ooh, I think that looks great. Perfect. Mission number 4 is done. Our player is looking pretty good. I don't think I like his color scheme, but it's working. His eyeball looks great. Let's go to mission number 5. It says update the world scroll position. So we've done a lot of defining our data and drawing our data, and now we are about to update some data. And this puts us inside of the update world function. We have seen that this function is getting called every single frame of our game. So if our game is running 60 times a second, this is going to happen 60 times. So if we look here, it says update the world scroll position, move the tunnel grid across the screen. Okay, so I don't know. What do we want to update it by? Right now it says world scroll X plus equals 0. Well, that seems silly. Adding 0 to something doesn't do anything. Let's make it 1. Let's see. Let's make it 1. If I make it 1, ooh, all of a sudden, our screen begins to move. Our player is stationary, but the background is now scrolling. And the background is scrolling thanks to our draw function in the world. Right down here, this is the magic of this line right here that we sort of said is going to help us move our world. So I don't know if I like the speed it's moving at, but it looks like it's pretty good. I mean, we're now moving it, so that's great. So what can we do next? Well, let's go to mission number 6. Mission number 6 says, let's increase the world scroll speed. So this puts us, it looks like, ooh, I have a constant variable. My constant variable inside of the student edit zone. So I've got a constant, because it seems like how fast the world is moving should be something that I could finely tune, right? I should be able to turn a knob on that. So all of the knobs that we can turn to adjust our gameplay are here in the student edit zone. So we've got a constant variable called world scroll speed. I'm going to set it to 6. And because I have this constant variable now that I'm aware of, I want to go back down to that function update world. And instead of adding 1, let's add the world scroll speed variable. So I'm going to start typing and then I'm going to hit tab to autocomplete it. All right, now we've defined that constant and we're using that constant. So if we refresh, ooh, now it looks like my player is running much faster. And if I want to change that speed, instead of having to search all the way down in the code where that line is, I just come up to my student edit zone and I can target this line right here. If I want to go way faster, let's go like at a speed of 10. Hey, we've increased the speed, but I'm going to keep it at 6 because I like that. 6 for mission number 6. Let's go to mission number 7. All right, mission number 7, we want to change the player's visual identity. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the color scheme that we have right now for the player. So let's change it up. So we're going to change the player's neon color. So let's get rid of that, right? What is it right now? It's this like ugly looking green color, and you can see we got lots of green right here with F6 for our green channel. I'm going to make it, let's see, FF, so all of the red, 4D, a decent amount of green, and 6D, a little bit more of the blue. So let's see what we get here. Ooh, I like that red. That red looks really good for me. And then let's change the player's body color. So let's get rid of the body color and let's make it, I want all white. So FF, all the red, all the green, and all the blue. Ooh, I like that. That sort of pops on this dark background. And then lastly, we're going to change our player's eye color. I'm going to make the player's eye color 0F, 0F, 0F. So that's going to be black, but sort just a little lighter. Ooh, perfect. So it almost matches like into my background. My player looks a lot better right now. Mission 7 is a success, which brings us to our final mission of the video, mission number 8, and that is our HUD identity. We got to change the game title text because right now it says game name, and we should probably put our actual game here. So let's just look. This is inside of a function called draw HUD. Our HUD, or heads up display, is going to be this top black region, and we've got another bottom region. We'll actually have two HUDs where we can display text. This is not part of our gameplay world. This is where text or information is going to be shown to the screen. And let's see what we're doing in Draw HUD. The first thing we have is a command called no stroke. That means the marker that I'm about to pick up to draw with, I want it to be invisible so you don't see the shape that I draw. You don't see the outline of the shape that I draw. And then we put some paint in our paint bucket, and we are putting in a color called HUD BG color. It's just plain old black. And then we're drawing some rectangles, 2 rectangles to be correct. And a rectangle takes 4 pieces of information. This is the top left corner of the rectangle, so 0, 0. 0, 0 is right here. And then we need the width of the rectangle, zoop, and the height of the rectangle. We're just going down to here, our HUD height. And so we take the width of our canvas and then the height of our HUD. And then the second rectangle is for the bottom HUD. Then it looks like we are picking up a different marker. We're picking up a different marker and we're making it have a color of our active polarity color. Right now it is that cyan color. And we're saying, hey, let's make it a thicker marker with a stroke weight of 2. And then we're drawing a line at the ceiling and a line at the floor. That's this line and this line. All right, so that defines our HUD. And then we pick up a new marker. We say, hey, invisible marker again. Hey, new paint in our paint bucket. We're going to put in our text color, which is white. And then we align our text. Basically, how do we want to position our text in our gameplay world? So we do center alignment here in the X and in the Y direction. And then we set our text size to be 36. If I change this, let's look what happens. I make it 80. Whoa, the text is much bigger. That sort of makes sense, but it looks bad. So let's go back to 36. And now we call the text function. So we set all of our information for the text, and now we're actually going to create some text. This takes 3 pieces of information. It takes the string, anything in quotes is a string, and so we're going to create a string that we want to display. I'm going to say polarity. All right, and I'll do all capital letters. Sure, that's the name of our game. And then this is where you want to place it horizontally and where you want to place it vertically. So width divided by 2 says, hey, take the width of our canvas divided by 2. That's smack dab in the middle. And then we're doing HUD height divided by 2. Well, HUD height is right here. It's like 60 pixels down divided by 2 gives me 30 pixels. So that's going to position our game name right in the center of our HUD. And with that, lesson number 1 is complete. Our game looks infinitely better than it did when we started. We started with that, I don't even know if you could call it a game. It was a still picture of abstract art. And now we have a game where we have a player that looks good. We have a world that has a good aesthetic and its movement showing infinite running of our player across our screen. I think this is a great place to stop, and I'll see you in the next video.